Um, I want to start this deep dive today with a really quick physical check-in.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, so I want you to freeze right where you are. Just don't move a muscle.
I feel like I need to immediately straighten my spine.
Right. But hold on, bear with me. I'm serious. Just think about your posture. How are you sitting or standing right this second?
Well, if you're like most people, probably not great.
Exactly. Are you slumped over? Are you sort of inhabiting your body like it's I don't know, like a cheap rental car that you're about to return to the lot?
Hoping the agent doesn't notice the scratches.
And that weird smell in the back seat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, and here is the alternative, are you sitting like you're the caretaker of a sacred ancient monument?
Wow. That is quite the contrast. A rental car versus a monument. I mean, most people probably feel like they're driving a used sedan with a check engine light on.
I know I do some days, but that is exactly the confrontation that's kind of forced upon us by the stack of notes and articles we have in front of us today. We are looking at a fascinating conceptual framework titled The Inner Deity. And honestly, reading through this, it felt less like a medical text and more like a lost manual for being human.
It really does. And to be specific for the listener, we are diving into a collection of materials that includes excerpts from Akan Jyoti magazine.
Right?
Specifically, we're looking at issues going back to February 1965 and November 1972.
Old school.
Yeah, plus insights from a book titled Kaya Kalp Ki Sadhana and a conceptual framework called Experience Energetic Citizen, specifically episode 24.
And before you tune out thinking we're just analyzing, dusty old magazines, I really want to frame the mission here.
Go for it.
These texts are basically proposing a radical update to our human operating system. The core argument is that we need to stop viewing the body as a burden or like a biological machine that just inevitably breaks down. We have to start viewing it as a divine temple.
Which sounds poetic, sure. But what's so interesting about this specific source material is that it's not just poetry.
No, not at all.
It's actually quite technical in its demands. It's also a system. And that word choice is very deliberate.
Yes. That was actually one of the very first things that jumped out at me. There's this production note in the source text that explicitly says, and I quote, replace the word anushasan, which means discipline, with system everywhere.
Everywhere. And that is a crucial distinction we're going to have to unpack. Like, why system and not discipline?
Right.
But before we get there, we really have to look at the problem this source is trying to solve. Why do we even need a system in the first place?
Because, according to the text, most of us are basically living in an inn.
Exactly. The source paints this really vivid picture of two opposing mentalities when it comes to our bodies. On one hand, you have the yin or the sere.
And the imagery here is just striking. It describes this beautiful ancient temple, but it's covered in cobwebs.
Bats flying around in the rafters.
Yeah, bats everywhere. And it contrasts that broken down temple with a modern hospital bed. And it essentially asks you, which one is your body?
And to illustrate this struggle, the text gives us two really distinct character archetypes. First, you have the negligent owner.
Which I feel like I know this person. I might actually be this person on some days.
Well, the negligent owner treats the body like a waiting room, just a temporary inn.
Right.
They fill it with junk. They completely ignore the leaks, which in this case are physical pains and symptoms. The whole mindset is essentially, this is disposable. I'm just passing through.
It's the total I'll fix it later mentality.
Precisely. Now contrast that with the hero of our story, Master Dinanath.
The divine architect.
Yes. Master Dinanath doesn't see a biological machine. He sees the literal abode of God. He treats the body with the exact reverence you would accord to his sanctuary.
And there's a very specific detail in the source regarding the negligent owner that I found just fascinating. It mentioned the age of 58.
Yes, the threshold. I stopped at that too.
Why 58? Seems so specific.
Well, historically, in the context of when this was written, 58 or 60 was often retirement age. But the text argues that after this age, most people essentially sign a psychological contract of decay. They treat their body as a dilapidated building or an old inn that's just best abandoned. They resign themselves to the idea that it's all downhill from there.
It's like they're saying, well, the warranty is up, so I guess I'll just wait for the wheels to fall off.
Exactly. It's a psychological surrender. You stop maintaining the building because you think the lease is almost up.
Wow.
But the source material from Akan Jyoti, specifically that February 1965 issue, hits back at this hard. It makes a theological argument for health that is actually quite aggressive.
Yeah, it's not just eat your veggies so you live longer.
No. It says, this body is God's temple. neglecting it is an insult to God.
Okay, I have to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because that is heavy. And honestly, it's a bit intimidating.
It is.
I mean, most of us are just trying to get through the work week without our lower back seizing up. Is it really fair to call a skipped gym session an insult to God? That just feels like a lot of pressure.
It is intense. I totally grant you that.
Yeah.
But think about it from the perspective of the author. If you believe, as this text clearly does, that the Creator resides within you, then the body isn't just yours.
Right.
It's the housing for something divine.
So it's kind of like if I borrow your car and I return it full of fast food wrappers and with a massive dent in the bumper, I'm disrespecting you.
Exactly. It reframes health completely.
Yeah.
It's not about vanity anymore.
Right.
It's not even just about longevity. It's an act of spiritual reverence. The source uses the word arcana, which means worship. It actually says that restraint and purification are the actual worship.
So if you're eating junk food and slouching on the couch, you're not just being unhealthy, according to this text. You're committing a kind of sacrilege. You're graffitiing the temple walls.
That is exactly the argument, yes. And that brings us perfectly back to that very specific production note we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The shift from discipline to system.
Right. Replace Anusha-san with system everywhere. Why is the source so adamant about that? I mean, don't we inherently need discipline to get healthy?
We tend to think so. But think about the connotations of the words. Anusha-san, or discipline, often feels like forced willpower.
Yeah.
It feels like punishment. It's something you force yourself to do because you've been bad.
Yeah. Discipline is what you need when you really don't want to do something. It's a constant struggle.
And struggle is exhaustible. Willpower is like a battery, right? It runs out by 2 p.m.
Oh, easily.
But a system is just functional. It's an architectural necessity.
Yeah.
Think about a physical temple or a church. They are cleaned daily, not because the cleaners are being punished, but because that is just how the building functions.
Right.
If you don't clean it, it ceases to be a functional space.
That's a really helpful reframe. Think about plumbing in a house. You don't need willpower to flush a toilet or turn on a faucet. It's just part of the system of the house.
Exactly. The source argues the living temple, the body, requires that exact same systemic respect. You need to automate the maintenance so it doesn't require a daily battle of will.
Okay, so if we are building a system and not just relying on white-knuckling discipline, what are the inputs? What does the maintenance manual actually say we need to do?
It lists 3 specific purifications, and they definitely go deeper than just wash your face and brush your teeth.
Go on.
First, purification of the outside, which is the body itself. Hygiene, exercise, daily movement. Second, purification of diet. And third, and perhaps most importantly, purification of thoughts.
The thought purification piece is so interesting to me. It's treating thoughts as a nutritional input, almost.
In this framework, absolutely.
Right.
Toxic thoughts, anger, jealousy, self-pity, they're viewed like mud on the temple floor.
Wow.
You can't have a pristine sanctuary if you're tracking in mud all day long.
There's a beautiful visualization in the source material describing this maintenance. It says when the system is actually working, the cells of the body should be imagined as glowing like tiny stars.
Which reinforces the idea of internal light. It's not just about looking good on the outside. It's about a cellular luminosity.
Okay, so we have the temple versus the yin. We have the system versus discipline. But then the source material takes this massive leap. It goes from the cellular level to the galactic level.
Yes. This is where we get into the November 1972 excerpts from Akan Jyoti. And this is where the philosophy gets really, really big.
This is the microcosm and macrocosm concept.
The core philosophy here is stated as what is in the universe is in the body. In Sanskrit, this concept is often referred to as Yadpinde Pat Brahmande, as is the atom, so is the universe.
I think this is my absolute favorite part of the deep dive because it's so empowering. But it's also, admittedly, a little abstract. The source explicitly says that humans are not poor or helpless. It says we are masters of limitless energy. But let's be real, most of us feel pretty helpless before our morning coffee.
We do. We often feel small. We feel like we are completely at the mercy of the world. But this text argues that the energy of the sun, the moon, and the constellations, the nakashatras, actually resides within human physiology.
Wait, let's unpack that. It's saying the constellations are inside us. How do we explain that to someone who isn't a mystic?
Think of it like a smartphone and the cloud. Your phone is a small, physical, finite object.
Right.
But it has the capacity to access the entire internet, all the data in the cloud. But it only works if the hardware is intact and the antenna is actually working.
Okay, I really like that analogy. So the universe is the cloud.
Right. And the human body is the hardware. The source is saying that the exact same forces that drive the planet's gravity, heat, electromagnetism are coursing through your nervous system. You are a node in the cosmic network.
This connects right back to the posture thing we started with, doesn't it?
It does.
If I'm a node in the network,
Then your physical alignment absolutely matters. The source makes a fascinating connection between posture and spirituality. It says, when you stoop or consider yourself weak, you are actively disrespecting the cosmic power residing within you.
wow. So slouching isn't just bad for your back, it's like bending the antenna. You're cutting the Wi-Fi signal to the cosmos.
It's a literal statement of defeat. If you house the energy of the sun and moon, you stand tall, not out of arrogance, but out of recognition of what you are actually carrying.
The source uses this incredible image of a vast galaxy shrinking down into the human heart and cosmic energy flowing into the nervous system. It's like we are these walking, breathing universes.
And if you truly believe that, if you truly visualize a galaxy in your heart, you treat your body very differently than if you view it as a rental car.
Yeah.
You don't put cheap gas in a galaxy.
No, you certainly do not. And this leads us perfectly to the practical application of all this high-level philosophy. The source introduces the concept of Kalp.
Kaya Kalp. Roughly translated, that means rejuvenation or body transformation. Kaya is body, and Kalp involves transformation or complete renewal.
Now, usually when people hear rejuvenation, they immediately think of magic pills, fountains of youth, or very expensive spa treatments in Switzerland.
Right. But the expert voice in our source material clarifies that Kaya Kalp is not presented as a miracle.
No.
It is presented as the logical, inevitable result of the system.
It's straightforward cause and effect. If you treat the temple like a temple, it shines.
Exactly. And the source lists the construction materials for this renewal, and they are surprisingly simple.
Simple, but very specific. The first one is the first ray of the sun.
Illustrated in the text by Master Dinanath, performing Surya Namaskar sun salutations at dawn. It's all about synchronizing your biological clock with the solar cycle.
Then there's sattvic diet. Now, definitions really matter here. Sattvic gets thrown around a lot in yoga circles. What does the text actually mean by it? Is it just eating salads?
It's definitely not just about calories or even just being vegetarian. In this context, sattvic refers to high-vibration food.
Okay.
Food that is pure, fresh, and light. It's the difference between food that makes you feel heavy and lethargic versus food that makes you feel clear and fueled. It's food that clarifies the mind rather than dulling it.
And the third ingredient is deep breathing.
Which connects back to that cosmic energy we talked about. Breath is the link between the internal and the external. It's how you pull the cloud data into the hardware, so to speak.
The text describes the body being outlined in golden light during this process. It really pushes this visual of the body becoming radiant. It's not just about not being sick, it's about glowing.
And that's a key distinction. Western medicine often focuses on the absence of disease. You're considered healthy if you simply aren't sick. This framework focuses on the presence of radiance. You aren't truly healthy until you are shining.
But to get there, to get to that radiance, the source says we have to do something dramatic. It describes a final sacrifice.
This is a really powerful scene in the conceptual framework, and it's where the rubber meets the road.
It describes a person holding a bag, and the bag is labeled neglect and self-pity, and they drop it into a sacred fire.
This is the crux of the mental shift. You cannot build the temple if you are still holding on to the innkeeper mentality.
But why self-pity? I get neglecting the body, but why is self-pity the specific thing we have to burn?
Because self-pity is comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to say, oh, I'm just getting old, or I have bad genetics, or I'm too busy to cook. Those are comforting lies. They completely absolve you of responsibility.
It's the whole poor me trap.
Exactly. The source argues that you have to burn that bag. You have to actively destroy the narrative that says you are a victim of your own body.
I feel like I'm carrying that bag right now, the I'm too busy bag.
We all are. And the text is ruthless here. It doesn't say unpack it later or look through it. It says burn it. Literally incinerate the excuses.
There is a specific vow or pledge mentioned in the text that you take after burning the bag. It says, I will make my body a temple, not an inn. I will protect it so the deity sitting within remains pleased.
That phrase, so the deity sitting within remains pleased, is the ultimate accountability partner. You aren't doing it for your doctor. You aren't doing it for Instagram likes. You are doing it for the inner deity.
It really changes the stakes. It makes a morning walk feel like a pilgrimage.
And that is the absolute goal of this entire deep dive, to take the mundane tasks of health, diet, exercise, posture, and elevate them into a spiritual practice. It turns maintenance into ritual.
So let's recap the journey we've been on. We started with the image of the broken temple covered in cobwebs, the body neglected by the innkeeper mentality.
We move through the realization that this neglect is actually an insult to the divine potential within us. We discuss the need to replace discipline, which is just exhaustible willpower, with a functional automated system.
We looked at the inputs of that system: thoughts, a sattvic diet, external purity. We saw the vision of the body as a microcosm of the universe, a smartphone connected to the cosmic cloud.
And finally, we discuss the Kalp protocol, using sun, breath, and purity to restore the temple to its golden glowing state once we burn that bag of excuses.
The source material ends with a very punchy sign-off. It's almost military in its precision.
Yes. The final command is no excuses, build a system, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. It really emphasizes that this is a duty. It's almost a patriotic duty to your own existence.
It implies victory. Victory over lethargy. Victory over neglect.
So as you go about your day today, I want you to think about that rental car versus the monument. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over on your own. We've been talking about the body as the temple and the system as the ritual.
Right.
But if the body is the temple and the system is the ritual, who is the priest?
That is the question.
Is it your conscious will? And if so, are you actually showing up for the service every day? Or are the doors locked and the temple empty?
That is a profound question to walk away with. If you are the priest, you have to open the doors every morning. You can't just show up on holidays.
Exactly. Something to think about the next time you decide whether to sit up straight or slump down. Thanks for diving in with us.
Until next time.